For the watch. For the watch. For the watch. For the watch. For the watch.
Hi, and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's Game of Thrones Season 6 predictions for Jon Snow. This video is part of a series of videos where I give my predictions on what I think will happen in Season 6, where I'll focus on a different character in each video. These predictions are mainly wild shots in the dark, as I don't have much information to go off of, so I don't expect to get more than 20% of my predictions correct. So bear that in mind as you're watching this video. Also, I'll give a spoiler warning for all of Game of Thrones up to Season 5. If you haven't seen up to Season 5, then, well, you've already been spoiled by the intro, but that's what you get for clicking on a video that said Season 6 predictions without even having seen Season 5 yet. But there are more spoilers ahead. And spoiler warning for filming and casting news for Season 6. If you don't want to know any of the filming news that may give away details of Season 6, then this video may not be for you. So, if you clicked on this video thinking, what do you mean Season 6 predictions for Jon Snow? Jon Snow is dead. Then that means you haven't been keeping up with the latest filming news. Kit Harington has been continually spotted in and around Game of Thrones shooting locations, far more than what can be explained away by him just visiting the set or just filming a dead body or flashback scene. But most of all, the smoking gun, if you will, here's the shot of him actually filming a scene for Season 6. There's a story behind this picture as well, which I will get more into later on in the video. Even though people like D.B. Weiss, David Nutter, Michael Lombardo, Maisie Williams, and Finn Jones are all swearing up and down that Jon Snow is dead and not coming back, the facts say otherwise. Watchers on the Wall, which is the #1 site for filming and casting leaks and all sort of other good info like that, they say that the fact that Jon Snow will be alive and well in Season 6 is the worst kept secret in Westeros. I know some commenters like to be clever and say Jon Snow is dead, but Jon Stark will be alive, or Jon Targaryen will be alive. First off, that's mostly just semantics. That Moby bastard who knows nothing, whose first name is John, yeah, this guy right here, he will be alive in Season 6, and that's the main point. Secondly, I personally don't think he will ever be known as Jon Stark. Now, Jon Targaryen, perhaps sometime in the future, but not immediately upon his resurrection. For a while anyway, he will continue to be known as Jon Snow. So, as far as what I think will happen with him in Season 6, I believe Episode 1 will be about Melisandre and Davos finding out what happened to Jon Snow. Davos won't be very big on Melisandre after she sent Stannis to his doom. However, I don't think he will find out that she was responsible for burning Shireen, at least not in this season. But he'll be swept up in the moment and reluctantly team up with her. Melisandre will start out in a state of disarray because her whole belief system has been thrown into chaos when Stannis failed. However, she will get over herself when she sees a vision in the flames of Jon Snow being the true Azor Ahai, not Stannis. She will realize that all the visions she had in the past were true, she was just misinterpreting them. And Stannis was just a means to an end to get her to the real Azor Ahai, Jon Snow. So she will have her faith renewed. I do believe in this episode all of this won't be explicitly explained to the audience. We may see Melisandre looking into the flames and then suddenly having a sudden change in character, and later on they may elaborate more on what happened with her, but this will essentially be it. So she'll know she needs to resurrect Jon, which she knows is possible from having met Thoros of Myr, who is also a Red Priest of R'hllor, and in fact she will believe this is part of the prophecy. The Night's Watch will be planning on burning Jon Snow's body at nightfall, so she'll have to act fast. As I said, she'll enlist Davos' help as he hides Jon Snow's body and replaces it with another body. Not sure where he'll get it from, but I'm sure there'll be a dead body lying around somewhere. Maybe one of the older wildlings froze to death or something. At any rate, when the Night's Watch go to burn Jon Snow's body, Melisandre will use her glamoring magic to make everyone think that it's Jon Snow's body they're burning when really it isn't. After that, Melisandre will be locked away in some hidden room somewhere with Jon's actual body and will perform the ritual similar to what Thoros of Myr did, and episode 1 will end with Jon Snow opening his eyes. Also, somehow the conditions will be set that he is born amidst salt and smoke. The smoke will be from the burning of the body. I'm not sure about the salt, but it will be in there somehow. Also, I do think the burning of Shireen will play a major factor on how Melisandre was able to bring Jon Snow back to life, as she expected the sacrifice to have this huge effect, but it did nothing for Stannis, and that's because he's not Azor Ahai. Jon is. However, whether or not this will be stated explicitly in the show or it will be open for interpretation, I'm not sure. So episode 2 will begin with Jon coming back to life and realizing what happened. Melisandre will try to explain it to him, but he won't quite believe it. At any rate, many people have noted that when one comes back to life in Game of Thrones, they're not exactly the same person. Beric Dondarrion stated he felt changed by the process, and every time he came back it felt like he lost a piece of himself. However, what's important to note is Beric Dondarrion came back 6 times, and even then he wasn't all that bad, and Jon Snow will only be brought back once, so I don't expect this massive change in him. It will be like a subtle change, where he won't be as steadfast in his duties and devotion to the Night's Watch, but he'll be more determined than ever to defeat the White Walkers. Melisandre will tell him he is in fact destined to defeat the White Walkers because he is the Lord of Light's chosen, but unlike Stannis, Jon isn't really going to want to hear this, but he'll eventually go along with her because she's his only true ally. His first instinct will be to go back to the Night's Watch, but Melisandre will talk him out of this as they tried to kill him and will just simply do so again. Also, she'll explain to him that he did die, and the Night's Watch vows state death releases one from their vows, therefore he's not bound to their oath anymore. She'll explain he needs to focus more on how to defeat the White Walkers. In episode 3, Jon will still be hiding out in some hidden room somewhere. Perhaps Melisandre will use her magic to keep it hidden while Davos involves himself in the politics of the Night's Watch, which would have gone to shit after Jon's death. Alliser Thorne will be the new Lord Commander with his faithful steward Olly, who he will be grooming for command. Alliser will not directly attack the Wildlings because he knows they outnumber him, but the Night's Watch days of helping the Wildlings will be over. He'll just be acting like a dick to them, promising them food, stringing them along, but his ultimate plan will be to just let them starve and die, and then if they attack Castle Black, they can sit safe in their castles and just pick them off one at a time. In fact, he might even be provoking them into attacking Castle Black so they have an excuse to kill them. He may even do a few sneak attacks, killing unarmed civilians. He'll consider this retribution for all the raids the Wildlings executed on the north, but of course he'll pretend like he had nothing to do with it. Davos will tell Jon Snow about all this, plus Davos will hear news that the North are gathering their forces to try to retake Winterfell from the Boltons, which he'll tell Jon Snow about as well. Melisandre will try to convince Jon that they need to unite the North against the White Walkers, as the Night's Watch will no longer help them. And the only way to do that is to defeat the Boltons and unite the North into one powerful unity. Meanwhile, Alliser will get sick of having Davos around and will be like, "Who the bloody hell are you? You know, your king is dead, you're just some guy." So he'll tell Davos to either join the Night's Watch, in which he will be directly under his command, or to get the hell out. So Davos, Melisandre, and Jon will leave Castle Black and head for the Wildling camp. But before Jon goes, he'll seek out Dolorous Ed and let him know he's still alive and enlist his help as a spy. He'll set up a method so Ed can leak information and let him know what's going on with the Night's Watch. In episode 4, Jon, Davos, and Melisandre will arrive in the Wildling camp, and Jon will seek out Tormund, who will be happy and surprised that he's still alive, and will help them out. Tormund will complain about how the Night's Watch is betraying them, and Jon will propose a plan that if the Wildlings help them to defeat the Boltons and take back the North, they can bypass the Night's Watch and make a truce directly with the Northern Lords to provide for the Wildlings. Tormund's first reaction will be, "How many times do I have to tell you I'm not fighting your southern wars for you?" However, Jon will convince him that it's the only way to defeat the White Walkers by having the North on their side, and it's the only way to help the Wildlings since the Night's Watch will no longer help them. He'll give a speech like, the one he gave in Hardhome about what the White Walkers are capable of, and that we need to prepare. So Tormund will reluctantly agree and will convince the other Wildlings by telling them they wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for Jon, so they need to trust him now. That's the easy part. Jon, Davos, and Melisandre will set off for the hard part as they hear the Northern Lords have that plan to strike against the Boltons are gathered at the last hearth, so they'll set out to go there. In episode 5, Jon will arrive at the last hearth only to find Rickon and Sansa already there, and thus will be a happy Stark reunion. Well, no, it won't be a happy reunion because Jon has been killed and Sansa has been repeatedly raped, so they're not all that happy. But, it won't be like smiles and cakes or anything, but Sansa and Jon will be glad to see each other as they thought that each other was dead. Jon will discover that Sansa was the main force behind trying to unite the North against the Boltons, but couldn't let her or Rickon's presence become public knowledge. And by this stage, she would have won over a large number of northern houses to their cause, including, with some difficulties, the Karstarks, which I'll cover in another video. However, the plan will be to take Winterfell so that they can place Rickon as the Lord of Winterfell and possibly King of the North. Mainly because he wouldn't be Warden of the North because they wouldn't recognize Tommen's rule. Now, some people suggested it might be Sansa they tried to make Wardeness of the North. However, rights of inheritance favors males regardless of age. So even though Sansa's older than Rickon, it doesn't matter because he's a male, he comes first in succession. Not saying I agree with that, but that's just the way it is in the North. The only reason they felt Sansa would inherit the North is because they thought Bran and Rickon were dead, but having him alive means he's next in line, which will in fact nullify Ramsay's claim on Winterfell, as the fact he's married to Sansa means nothing since Rickon is next in line to inherit Winterfell. And others suggest they may try to make Jon Snow the head of House Stark, and perhaps someone might even suggest this, but he would wholeheartedly resist this and would rather focus on the White Walkers and will refuse any attempts to legitimize him. Now, it has been confirmed by filming news that Rickon and Osha will be in Season 6, and they cast Little John Umber, as well as a new Lord Karstark who will be in Season 6. And as we knew from Season 3, Osha and Rickon were heading for the last hearth, so I believe that is where they would have been hiding this whole time, and they will not go to Skagos like they did in the books. As to how Sansa got there, I will cover that later in a later video. At any rate, Jon will talk to Small Jon, who's planning to take Winterfell, and tell him he doesn't have the numbers. Even though they managed to gather most of the northern houses, they still don't have enough men to take Winterfell, which is a fortress that the Boltons could just sit behind while their troops freeze in the snow. And thus, Jon will suggest the alliance with the Wildlings to Small Jon, and his initial reaction will be, "The bloody wall will melt before an Umber marches with the Wildling." But then Jon will give them this impassionate speech about what he saw at Hardhome and how the Night's Watch aren't doing a goddamn thing to stop them. So the North is their only hope, and that they'll need the Wildlings' help to defeat the White Walkers. Small Jon will then reluctantly agree to feed and shelter the Wildlings if they help them to defeat the Boltons. In episode 6, Davos will agree to help Jon in his fight against the Boltons because with Stannis gone he has no true cause and he will want to help defeat the people that defeated his king. Meanwhile, Ramsay would have sent spies to the Last Hearth and will hear back from them that Jon Snow and Sansa are there, and so he'll send Jon the pink letter, demanding that Jon return his wife, otherwise they'll defeat him just as they defeated Stannis. This will take on a slightly different meaning from the books, as in the books, whether or not you believe Stannis was defeated or not, the letter was meant to inform them of Stannis' defeat, whereas this time they will be well aware of Stannis' death, which would have happened a while ago, so it will be more about bragging about it. Jon will then worry about keeping Rickon and Sansa in the same place, as they are the only true Stark heirs left, and will want to separate them, so if one thing happens to one of them, it doesn't happen to the other will be safe. Sansa will hear about a mission a few northern armies are going on and will want to go with them. Jon at first will be against this, but she'll eventually talk him into it. So in episode 6, Sansa will leave the north for another destination and mission, which I'll get into in her video. In episode 7, the northern armies will be gearing to leave. We may get some character moments between Jon and Davos and Jon and Rickon. Rickon will be staying behind with his bodyguard Osha protecting him. Meanwhile, in the Wildling camp, Tormund will be able to dodge Alliser Thorne's efforts to fuck with him thanks to some information from Ed, and Jon will get word to them to leave for Winterfell. In episode 8, the northern forces will meet up with the Wildling forces halfway there. Tensions will at first be high, but Jon will soothe things over. Meanwhile, at Winterfell, the Boltons will be planning some devious moves. Maybe Ramsay will try one of his 20 good men maneuvers again. That will be mildly successful. Then in episode 9, we get the huge battle for Winterfell. I'm not sure if this will be an entire episode arc like the Battle of Blackwater and the Battle for the Wall, or if it will be half an episode like Hardhome. However, the same director who directed Hardhome is directing this episode. Watchers on the Wall has reported on this major battle being fought at Winterfell that involves Ramsay and Jon Snow, and that is indeed where this picture is from. And as you can see, Jon is not in his nice watch garb. The major battle sequence is said to be in episode 9, but I'm not sure how they know it's episode 9 and not episode 10, since the same director is doing both of them. But I'm just going to assume that they're right for the moment. And the Wildlings are reported at this battle fighting with Jon, and northern lords like Little Jon Umber are there, which is what I base many of my predictions on. In fact, I wasn't too surprised to hear Jon Snow and the Umbers were involved in the battle, but I was very surprised to hear that the Wildlings were involved. I wasn't expecting that. At any rate, the report is they've been shooting this major battle sequence for over a month, which is approximately how long it took them to film the Battle of Hardhome. So it doesn't necessarily mean it will be a full episode affair, but it does mean it will be quite an epic battle. Anyway, my predictions is that Jon and the northern forces are successful, but it is no easy victory. They will take Winterfell and hang Roose Bolton as a traitor, but Ramsay Bolton will escape alive in order to come back and haunt them in the future. Then in episode 10, Rickon will arrive in Winterfell and begin his reign as King of the North, but this won't be the super duper happy ending. There will still be a lot of eeriness cast on this. A lot of things will still hang in the balance, such as the looming White Walker threat, Ramsay still being at large, and the fact that the Lannisters will be pissed at what transpired. But unlike the War of the Five Kings, they won't be marching south to out the Lannister rule, and the Lannisters will have their hands full with so many other things, which I'll get into in more other videos. They won't really be in a position to do anything about it, but they will try one other thing, but I will cover that in another video. So that's it for my predictions for Jon Snow. Now, if this seems like fan fiction to you, that's because, well, it kind of is. I just want to reiterate that I don't expect in my wildest dreams to get this 100% correct. In fact, as I said, if I get at least 20% of this correct, I will consider it a resounding success. As I don't really know what will happen in Season 6, and I'm just taking wild guesses because it's fun to speculate, but we'll see how it goes. So before I go, I just want to make a quick update to my Tyrion predictions video that I made last week, as since making that video I've heard about a scene being filmed with Sibel Kekili, who played Shae, dressed as a Marinese commoner, and because of this there's been a lot of speculation that Shae is still alive because her death was never officially confirmed by the show. I just want to say I totally disagree with this and instead agree with the theory that she will appear in a dream or hallucination or vision that Tyrion has. However, this has been called into question because apparently a scene was being filmed with her that Tyrion is not in, but that could be wrong. It could be a mistake, or it could just be them shooting her close-ups and Peter Dinklage just happened not to be on set at the time. Or it could be a dream or vision from Tyrion's point of view, but he doesn't actually appear in it. Or perhaps it's the Red Priestess using her glamoring magic to make herself appear as Shae for some reason. Who knows? But Shae most certainly is not alive. Also, I just want to give a quick shout out to an awesome YouTube channel you should check out, as I've been a fan of this channel myself for a while now. Phil the Issues Guy. He does weekly live recaps of Game of Thrones when it's on, and currently he's doing recaps of older Game of Thrones episodes from season 1, as well as covering current shows like The Walking Dead. It's a really cool channel. I'd highly recommend it. Unlike me, where I just sit in front of a microphone and talk, Phil's recaps are entirely interactive as he engages with those in the chat room while he recaps, and it's always a lot of fun, so make sure you head on over to Phil the Issues Guy and subscribe. So that's it for my Game of Thrones Season 6 predictions video for Jon Snow. Be sure to check back here every Monday where I will have a new video out with my Game of Thrones Season 6 predictions, focusing on a different character every week. And make sure you subscribe so you can keep up with all that. And thanks a lot for watching.